priority. So we have recording in progress. Sorry if I started too early. But we have the outreach VP, that's a new position. We have our first ever diversity, equity, inclusion chair, and we've added an international academy board member who is one of our teachers. You all may know Gabe Elias. I'm seeing this rock star panel on my right side. I just have to say, nobody warned me that I would have the future mayor, the president of Virginia PTA. It's sorry, it's a little nerve wracking, but hopefully I'm talking clearly enough. So, okay, I see what happened with the formatting, but that is cool. Our budget. Interestingly, for the largest school, certainly in Alexandria, and the largest high school in Virginia, we have a relatively small budget. And as most of you, I hope, who will end up at the high school will find out, we have very engaged parents, but at the high school level, they break off into booster organizations for their kids' various functions. So, you know, we have a very active orchestra booster organization. I'm a rugby booster. So people tend to focus, and not surprisingly, and no judgment, on what their kids are interested in. But there are many, many kids who are not in one of those groups. And so that's what the PTSA tries to focus on. So our fall fundraising goal is $25,000, which may seem small to some or large to others, I don't know, but for the size of the school, it's small. We're almost there. We're about 3,000 off. So if anyone wants any last minute end of year donation ideas, the PTSA would be more than happy to take your dollars right off you. We focus a lot on teacher appreciation, and to give you an idea, you know, with 400 staff and teachers, almost 500 actually, just to have a welcome back lunch is about $7,500. So we have 10,000 budgeted for teacher appreciation, and we try to do as much as we can for teachers. But it's hard to do it with such a large group. So that's one of our challenges. We're working on raising 7,500 for teacher grants. We have already given, let's see, $3,000 to the Neediest Kids Fund and to the PBIS program at our wonderful principal's suggestion. And we're working on funding a full scholarship through the Scholarship Fund of Alexandria. That would also be 3,000. A new thing for us, like I mentioned before, outreach events for our Hispanic community and our Ethiopian community in particular. We do senior celebrations. We help kids who can't afford a prom dress or a tuxedo. We want to make sure everyone's included. And of course, we give to the PTAC Equity Fund. In the spring, the way we do our budget, which is kind of funny, we raise for operating in the first half of the year. And then in the second half, throw all our efforts toward the all-night grad party, which is a huge event we have obviously on graduation night. And the goal for that is 28,000 this year. So next slide, please. So our programs, well, as you can see, there's a lot of flyers there. Katie Palavicino has turned me into a bit of a Canva addict. If any of you are looking for a good program to design your flyers, highly recommend Canva. We love a good flyer at the PTSA. So our programs started off in the summer. We did some building tour meet and greets. We opened a new building. This year, obviously, the new Mini Howard, very exciting. We have done Stock the Classroom drives, obviously our membership drive, 228, I think is the highest that the high school has had in recent years, so we're very proud of that. We did a voter registration drive this year, which was new, trying to get students who are 18 and older, or 17, but would be 18 by election day, to register to vote. As many of you know, that PTA is obviously nonpartisan, but to encourage voting is something that they do recommend. So we had a lot of success there. We have an advocacy chair. We've done a survey. We are currently meeting with school board members and hopefully city council at some point to talk about priorities there. We did the Reflections Art Contest. We have 4 super talented artists, musicians, writers who are going to the state competition now. They received their school awards this past week. And we sponsor things like Youth in Progress. Actually, it's called Youngins in Progress now, but the YIP program targets a demographic that is a challenge for us. So male Hispanic students appear to be the group for us that is most at risk as far as dropping out or having academic challenges. And so that group focuses totally on them. They have this great hook where there's a soccer team that ASA, Alexandria Soccer Association, supports. And if they have certain grades, they can participate for free in the soccer group. And it's a real incentive, is all I can say. It works really well. We bring supports not only to the students, but to the families. And we've had students come to our meetings and talk to us about how their parents have never felt like part of their educational experience until now, which is really something to think about. And we feel proud of that. And then, of course, we have the all-night grad party. Next slide, please. So that's really a quick overview of what we're doing at the high school. You can see we have 4 principals there who are all rock stars. We love Mr. Duncan. Be happy to talk to anyone who's interested in talking about the high school. We have 5 ways to stay connected. We have a new website, as I mentioned. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. You can write us by snail mail. That works too. And I've included some contact information if you want to reach out to anybody. Sue Heiler Brown, you might recognize, I think she's on this call, is also the DEI chair for PTAC. And we have her as our wonderful outreach VP. And then Amanda Ruff is membership. So all community members are welcome to join the PTSA, of course. And as I see our soon-to-be mayor in the panel on the right-hand side of my screen, I'm reminded that she is going to be speaking at our January meeting. So we're very excited about that, talking about city-school partnerships and the budget. So that's really all I have. If anyone has any questions, we're super proud of our school and our students and our rockstar teachers, and we can't wait for all of you to join us there. So thanks for the time.
Thank you, Missy. And I think you're up to what, 224 members, parents and students?
228. 228.
228. Okay, so that's great. We're on the way up.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Missy? Okay, well, thank you so much. We are all excited to get there eventually, depending on how old our children are. So, oh, this is not up to date. Okay, so there's a little error in the slide. So we have there's a couple errors actually. Sorry about that. We have Dr. Kay Wyatt, who is our lovely superintendent, who will give you some updates, and then we have Aaliyah Gaskins, who kindly joined us, our mayor to be, very shortly, and we are excited to have you to tell us a little bit, and then we have Jenna Alexander, who is our president of the Virginia PTA, and a dynamic force in herself, who's going to share some about advocacy in the coming Capitol Day in Richmond in January, I hope. Next. And then after that, we have Mr. Tim Beatty, who is kindly stepping in for Dr. Michelle Reif to give our school board update. So we are delighted to have you, Mr. Beatty, as well. And so I will turn it over to Dr. Kay Wyatt first. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Excited, of course, to always be here. And again, I want to just say thank you for taking time to meet with me at our bi-monthly chats. I really love them. They're very informative. They allow us to continue to collaborate on different levels and really drill down to the school needs. So with that being said, I do have a slide presentation. I know that's kind of the joke with me. It's like she always brings slides because I want to make sure I remember. But this slide presentation is especially unique because I'm going to share some slides and highlight something that I think you might all know about. So let me see if I can share my screen here. I don't know why my computer is moving so slowly this evening. All right, so we're going to go into our slideshow here. And so just a few updates. It's been a busy fall. We know we've got a lot of information coming out from Richmond and the Virginia Department of Education. And so we've worked really hard in talking about our cell phone policy. If you saw our school board meeting just a few weeks ago, the weeks are running together for me now, but we did have a really robust conversation about what that's going to look like for students. And I want everyone to know that we did put in that exception for our secondary schools because we do use our cell phones for hall passes and transitions to help allow us to monitor students. So just wanted to highlight that a little bit tonight. And that we're also going to be recognizing tomorrow Seems like that was a long time coming, but we're going to be recognizing our departing school board members. So tune in for that as we say thank you to them for their service. And then it's funny that we have our future incoming mayor on because they will be joining you. We'll have Ms. Green and Mr. El Nubi going over to City Council. So we're going to take an opportunity to recognize the highlights that they've done, as well as the other departing members like Miss Megan Alderton, Miss Tammy Ignacio. And I think I got everyone in that list. And then also, we've also been working on onboarding our new school board members. So there's a smooth transition because once they start after their onboarding and induction ceremony, we go right into a very busy budget season. So we want to make sure that they're geared up and ready to go. And so this is the highlight slide here that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. If you were there, I think Ms. Easterbrook, you might have been there. I hear you might have been there for this event. I'm not sure about other school board members who were there. I'm sorry, not school board members. PTA presidents and leadership was there. But again, we've had Dr. Coons come to highlight the work of our pathways. She was here a few weeks previous to this visiting Patrick Henry's middle school CT exploration course and loved it, and now wants to use that as part of the model that the Virginia Department of Education is going to use. And now coming back to our Pathways program and just really seeing what we're doing there, and wants to highlight that as well. So, and they are coming back. They want to bring some of her instructional leaders to come back and look at this great work. So if you didn't make it to that event, we're going to have to definitely do that again. It was really, truly a highlight, and we're really supportive of the work. We do know we have some challenges coming out with the new accountability system, and Dr. Page did share that at the last PTAC meeting. But we are working through that. We have meetings with the state. I actually had one early this morning about how they're going to roll out all of the levels of accountability and some of the new components with the, which they call the 3 E's, and what that looks like for our students. But we're going to continue to provide the quality education that we know our students deserve and work within those kind of confounds and guidelines of the new accountability system. And then my screen's not changing. I'm not sure why. Projects coming up. Tonight, we have the George Mason Elementary School Modernization Project that we're still working on. Of course, we have all of our work around the strategic plan, closing out a vote this week on our CIP budget. And then in January on the 23rd of 2025, that's hard to say, that we are going to have a school board meeting where I will present my superintendent's budget. And so that's just kind of where we are with our upcoming projects. And just to let everyone know, we will have on January the 6th, our school board induction ceremony and reception. That's at Alexandria City High School, King Street campus at 6:30 p.m. The other item I wanted to highlight is that I think I've shared it with most of my PTA leadership in their meetings, but I do meet not only with the high school students as previous superintendents have done. I also have meetings now with middle school students because I want to hear their voice in a lot of decisions and what's going on. They share about clubs, just anything that they want to share with me. It's that opportunity for them to do that. And then I also meet with elementary students. And so those future Titans there, they have some great insight on their school experiences at elementary school. They share what their families feel about, they hear about, the high school, and they hear about football and clubs. And so it's just a really neat experience to get all voices in that I can take back to my cabinet and leadership team when we're making decisions. And then, of course, the redistricting committee will be making those decisions. So we did get a number of applicants who wish to serve on the engagement part of that with us, and those notifications will be going out really soon. And that is all I have this evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. K. Wyatt.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? I know Dr. K. Wyatt has a very busy evening, so I just want to give people a chance to ask questions and then let you go if you need to go.
Hi, I'm sorry. I had a quick question and I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. Dr. K. Wright, would you be willing to just give a quick overview about the proposals for Jefferson Houston and Patrick Henry that are in the CIP?
So, sure, of course. I'm not sure how much you want me to go into it, but I believe that I can't say how the board is going to vote tomorrow, but I believe that the proposal and the discussion, I'm sorry, my phones were still on. Sorry about that. I'm still working. So tomorrow night, there will be a vote to see if we're going to move away from the K-8 instructional model as we know it. And so the motion will come from the board, and their motion, and maybe Mr. Beatty is a better one to talk about, but I believe it will be to definitely phase out the K-8 instructional program, which of course will impact the instructional building model, meaning, you know, potentially a school could become an elementary school and another school will become a middle school. And with that, of course, we would have to fold that in and have discussions around our work around redistricting, because we are in that process right now and what that would look like long term. I know our steering committee for redistricting has spoken about this several times, of making sure that we monitor redistricting, not in 5-year chunks, because lots of things happen in Alexandria. We've had lots of growth, and looking at what seat capacity and utilization looks like more frequently. So that is all a part of that conversation. But tomorrow there will be a decision made about how ACPS should go with the decision around the K-8 model. Is that helpful, Ms. Bolton? Did that kind of grasp what you were looking for?
It's helpful. Yeah. I mean, I would also just say that there's definitely confusion and some alarm in the community. I think that lots of folks are surprised. They're just surprised about the line items in the CIP. And so I would please encourage some outreach on behalf of your team or the school board. And I understand that is a tall and difficult ask, very deeply, but parents are concerned. So
okay, can I ask what the outreach is? Because I know we've had several engagement meetings for quite some time that went on through last year into this fall even. I asked Dr. Finney and the team to go and do more than what we had originally planned, just to make sure that we keep everyone involved. I know she's also, my team has also reached out and worked with staff, because I don't want anyone to panic. We're not talking about this happening at the end of this year. This is a long range plan, in the sense that, everyone will still have positions with us, and we will definitely go and work with staff once we get to this point. We still have not voted on CIP. So, all of that is kind of, a little early to make final decisions. But, the message to the staff is, we need you. We want you to stay. So please don't think that it's going to happen at the end of the year. Everyone will still have positions as we go into, whatever the model, whatever the vote and the decision is going to be. We're very proud of our vacancy rate that we have this year, but we always know that there are going to be retirements and things like that. Families will move, so we'll always have openings, but we will still be operating 2 schools. So I think that's the clear message, that there will still be 2 schools that we will have to staff and support. And I know we've gotten a few emails from a number of families about the Jefferson Houston model and what that's going to look like as a middle school. But until we get the direction from the board and the final vote, then my staff will come back and then continue to work with both the Patrick Henry and the Jefferson Houston community as well as the staff and the students, because we do know those middle school students are tuned in and really listening to what's going on. So, and we can definitely circle back to our PTA leadership at both schools.
Thank you. And I would say quickly to your question, Dr. Finney did come, and I went to one of her meetings, and we are very grateful for that. I think the surprise has been that in each of her presentations, the message was communicated that there wasn't a decision, and I understand the contingencies of decisions in a CIP, but right, that's a nuanced message. It's a complicated message, just like, and so that has been without exception, everybody has been surprised, because they felt like what they heard was that no decision would be made until redistricting. And it feels like that's not the case.
Okay, so yeah, I think there's just, a misunderstanding there. The decision comes with the redistricting process, but once the board votes, it will get folded in, because we'll have to see if the board chooses to make which school elementary or which school, a middle school, or whatever their decision is. I don't want to put any ideas out there. It is truly a board. The board will make that decision, and then we will have to move that in. So at the time that she was presenting, the board had not made a decision there, we just, did our engagements with the family, engagements with the students, to get that feedback that she did take to the board to present, so that they can have an informed decision of kind of where to go.
Yes,
but
and there are line items in the budget that prescribe a decision.
yeah, well, the line items we said in that meeting, they're holding. That doesn't mean that it could be flipped, it could be the other school, but we have to do something around seat capacity at the middle school. So that money has to go towards fixing that that concern and that growing number of students that we have. So something has to happen there. And the reason why it was placed in the CIP in that manner is because we did have the guidance from, you know, the city manager of what we should do, but we've got to make some decisions in this community around, you know, schooling. And it's unfortunate because, you know, the future mayor Gaskins knows, like, you know, they're supportive of schools, but we do not have a lot of land options to build schools. So we have to be really innovative, but still remain with high quality programming and the buildings and structures that we have.
And I will apologize and stop there. Thank you so much for, I'm embarrassed at how much time I'm taking up, but the community does need to hear from someone. So
Sure. We can definitely circle back. I do know that we've gotten some inquiries about why didn't we communicate? And then I went back and looked at all the list of engagements. And I think sometimes, you know, there's lots of things going on. And now that we're coming to a vote, I think we'll have to come back and have that follow-up engagement. And we're more than happy to do that.
very much so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry has her hand up, and I just wanted to add, if it's okay, Dr. K. Wyatt, I know Dr. Finney is planning to go back to JH in January or February and share. So I think it's in the process of being scheduled. Terry has a question.
I just had a quick follow-up question just for George Washington Middle School, what the cell phone policy will mean for that middle school. You said it's delayed for the high school kids, but for middle schoolers, what will be expected for them in January to be implementing? And has already been disseminated?
Yeah, no, so it's bell to bell. And if you look at the policy, the way it's spelled out, we have an elementary, middle, and high school. It's really bell to bell for middle schoolers. And I have to say the middle schoolers are pretty much doing that already.
They are supposed to, yes.
Yeah, they're supposed to. There are sometimes a few we have to redirect, but really it's bell to bell for them as well,
Okay.
unless
That's just
they
on
have
the
the
website.
exception. I'm sorry, what was that?
That's just on the website.
Yes, it's under our board docs from the last school board meeting. You'll look, it's actually spelled out separately. If you click on it, it says cell phone policy. And you know, the cell phone policy, that is a whole new level of education that not only do we have to give to our children, but that's another one of those items. You're going to hear me talk a lot in the next few months about I need parent engagement to the point of parent support for a lot of things that are happening in our division, you know, when it comes to cell phones, because we can't discipline, but we have this executive order that we have to carry out. But you know, I joke with some of the adults, like we need to educate our adults on cell phone use as well, not just our students. And it's very hard. And, you know, talking about the proper use of a cell phone and just the effects that it can have with, you know, students looking at materials and things, not only in school, but outside of school, that could really, you know, kind of interrupt learning and impact mental health. So that cell phone is a bigger discussion than bell to bell in schools. So thank you, Ms. Brownback. Look at that. Board docs link up. You are amazing. Thank you. And so that vote will come on Thursday as well.
Missy has a really quick question, I hope, and then we have to let Dr. K. Wyatt go and let Ms. Gaskins, soon to be mayor, have a turn.
Sorry, I just wanted to piggyback on Dr. K. Wyatt's comments, which is part of our survey this year was to ask parents directly what they thought about the cell phone policy. And 87% of parents support no cell phones in schools. There was some differentiation on how to do that. Of course, there would be and where to put them. But just so you know, 87% are behind you. And I think even some kids would prefer it too. Don't tell my boys I said that. I really do think so. And the teachers who institute that policy already, it just shows more success and engagement. So we're behind you for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll just close out. If you're a high school parent, we will be sending another communication to you this evening about the events that happened. Unfortunately, there were a number of events that took place today, and just letting everybody know that we take these matters very seriously, and we will take that time to further support our students and our staff in that matter. So look for an additional communication this evening.
I want to say thank you for sending out those communications. It's better to hear than not hear. And it kind of put us a little bit at ease. And I think at least my student was appreciative of it. So thank you.
Yeah, so we do have a plan in place tomorrow. You'll get a letter. I'm hoping you'll be okay with it, but we definitely need to take some next step actions. And I really I really want to put a push out there. Schools take on so much with what we do. We educate our students. Now we have telehealth, and we will continue to do everything possible for them as well as our staff. But we have to make some tough decisions in the next few days. So I just say to you all, please bear with us, support us, and really just support our staff. It was a very challenging day for our staff. And I think all too often when, we think our staff can just bounce back, come there and be there for the kids. But it's tough for, even as a superintendent, we feel for our children and our families, no matter what we're going through. So I just want this community to know that any decision that we make, it's because we care. And they're often tough decisions that I have to make, and not everyone's going to agree with me. But those are just kind of the way we have to operate in the world that we're in now. So just wanted to share that with you. Okay. And that's
Thank
all
you
I
so
have.
much. Okay. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have Aaliyah Gaskins, our soon-to-be mayor. Do you have slides you would like to share, or would you just like to talk?
I do not have slides, so I will
Okay,
just
so we'll
talk for a little bit and then open it up to questions. I'll also be mindful that I know you have two other speakers after me, so.
Sorry, this turned into an exciting night.
I know, isn't that the way it is, like for all of us right before the holidays? Everything just comes. So we'll all get through it together. First, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me, but more importantly, thank you for the work that you do each and every day on behalf of not just your kids, but truly all of our kids in our community. I know it's not easy. I know there are a lot of meetings. I'm sure there are many fires and things that you're constantly running to or trying to put out, but there's also all of the other events and things that you're doing to create community and joy and advance equity in our schools. And so I say thank you, and I want to be your partner as we move forward. And so we'll look to you for some ideas on how I can support you in that work. I know Dr. K. Wyatt might have to jump soon, but I do just want to thank her and thank Tim for their leadership and the work that they're doing, trying to pass the policies and the systems we need to really support our young people at every level throughout their school journey. So what I thought I would do is just, I guess I was asked to share a little bit about who I am and my priorities. I'll keep that short, but then the work ahead and how we might work together. And I want to thank Katie for kind of starting us off with our mission, with your mission and the focus on every child's potential. And something you said was that your job is to really think about the whole city. And I thought, that's actually the perfect framing for how I think about the work I will need to take up as mayor. When I think about our young people, it is not just every young person across the city, but it is also kind of the whole child and what do they need to be successful in our community. For me, that means a range of things. I think it's critical that we are investing in their education and their schools, their school buildings, but also their teachers and their lessons and what is happening within that building. But it's also important to make sure that everything they need to be able to step into that building ready to learn, whether that is safe, affordable housing, whether that's nutritious food to eat, whether that's safe routes to get to school, I have to be thinking about that. Even further upstream to, do their parents have the jobs they need? Do they have the supports they need in order to feel well and supported so that they can support their child? As a mom of two little ones with big emotions right now, we all know how demanding it can be and how many stressors are on families right now. For me, that kind of whole child support is deeply important and personal for two reasons. First and foremost, I was raised by a single mom. My mom worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs. And as I've said many times, it felt like as a kid, no matter how hard we worked or how hard my mom worked, we never seemed to make it work out. Everything was always a struggle. And so I was that kid who came to school, like not having eaten, dinner the night before, maybe not lunch, just depends. And I would be in class, and the only thing that's on my mind is my stomach growling. I could barely hear because I'm worried about kind of where my next meal is going to come from. As I got older and the more I began to see the things that my mom was dealing with and navigating, the concerns became even deeper to like, am I going to walk home and there's going to be an eviction notice on the door? And I think for a lot of our young people, they are stepping in to be adults and stepping in to help their families in ways we can't imagine. And so that's constantly on my mind. I'd say the other reason why it's personal, my background is in public health and urban planning. And so much of my training and the way I think about things are kind of how do we get to the root? What is behind this? And what do we need to do from a prevention standpoint so we are not in the same conversations and the same cycles and the same meetings over and over. So that's a little bit of just the perspective I'm coming from. When I think about next year and the term ahead, I'd say my biggest priority that I want to work with our school board partners on, as well as my colleagues, is really how do we deepen and strengthen our partnership and our work together. At the end of the day, I think sometimes what happens is it's the cities over here and schools over here, but these are all our kids and their lives are affected by decisions made in both areas. Of course, there will always be decisions that just need to be on the school board and just need to be on the school, but we've got to be talking and we've got to be sharing information so that at the end of the day, each of our decisions work collectively to support our young people. What does that look like for me? It's my understanding that previous mayors used to do like a city schools retreat. I've started to socialize that idea with some partners on both bodies, just kind of see maybe that's a good way to kick off. How do we want to work together? What are the shared goals that the community has charged us with that we need to be accountable for and really start making some progress? But also, how do we talk to each other? How do we speak to each other? How do we stay focused so that conversations don't escalate to a point where we are not even respecting each other in the conversations that we need to have, because that's not helpful to any of our kids. So that's one idea. Another thing I've been thinking about, and I've had some great kind of brainstorming sessions with Dr. Reef, is we have a city schools meeting. Is there an opportunity to maybe reimagine how we use some of that time so that we're not at a place where every time our bodies are together, we're saying we have to make tough decisions, but we're actually spending the time going deep into what information do we need to make the tough decision? How do we start sharing that and be as transparent about that information so that we are actually every month getting the building blocks and the framework to make that decision, and we can start making some of those tough ones. Even if we don't agree on the final outcome, we can at least all agree on the information we're using and the process by which we got there and the process by how we engage the community in that work. I'd say the other thing that I really want to think about is I find people are getting information in a lot of different ways. It's coming at you from social media. It's coming at you from alerts, newspapers, word of mouth, all of these things. And that's a lot to keep up with as you're balancing everything else. And so what can we do together as city and schools to make sure we're sharing information to you and to other families in a way that is what you need, it's clear and it's actionable, but it also is very clear how you can engage in those decisions that are being made. I think we're going to have some big areas where that's going to matter. I mean, one, Dr. K. Wyatt talked about an update she'll be sending, school safety. When kids are not at school, they go home to neighborhoods. And if there's an issue at school, how do we make sure that we're communicating so that that doesn't spill over or escalate in a different way within our neighborhoods or our rec centers, on the street, on the bus, whatever that looks like. But are there ways we can make sure that we are alerting not just parents, but other community members who might be critical stakeholders stakeholders and protecting everyone's overall safety. I think other areas we've talked about are around out of school time programs, and just kind of the quality and availability. So if when kids are at our rec centers or other programs in the community, we're all kind of sharing information about what's available, where folks can access that. I think another thing is related to just kind of the services available. We have a youth ambassadors program, and our young people told us that they wanted more mental health supports because they may have questions or they have concerns or they need someone to talk to when they're not at school. So is that another space where we might be able to share some information in the schools and in the community so that every kid gets what they need when they need it, before it becomes a crisis? In terms of the work ahead, I think there's a couple important next steps. On January 2nd is the swearing in for this new council, which really begins our work together. So if you're free at 6 p.m., it will be at the Schlesinger Center, and would love to have you there as we take this first step together. So the second thing is, session kicks off in Richmond. It is a short session for our delegates, but something we are going to be partnering very closely with with our school board partners is advocating for funding for school construction. That has been a big issue. I think everyone on this call knows that we got a lot of schools that were built like 50 years ago or longer, and their infrastructure needs upgrades. There are just other things that are necessary for child learning. I think also as we grow as a city and the implications on schools and school capacity, that requires additional resources. So that's going to be a huge piece of our legislative packet. And we're going to be, I think I head to Richmond on the 8th. So like not soon after we're sworn in, we're going to be down there trying to advocate for our kids. And then the other big thing will be the budget. That'll probably be the bulk of our work together and the bulk of the council's discussions from February until May. And so really getting a better sense from our city manager on where we are, what constraints we have, and what are the different needs we have to balance and prioritize. I guess where I will close is where I see space for us to work together. One is something I want to be intentional about is making sure our young people are involved in the decisions we're making. This is their city too. And I think they have a lot of great ideas. And so thinking about, maybe how do we turn our youth ambassadors program into a youth council? How do we, as council members, spend more time in community with our young people, hearing their concerns, hearing their ideas, hearing what makes it challenging for them to stay in this city? I want to work with each of you on what those ideas might look like, and how we can have more intentional conversations. The second piece is really the budget. And I want to give a shout out to Katie and Missy, and there's I think Maureen and a few others on this call. The budget is complicated and it is a lot happening. And I think last year, having the chance to sit down with leaders from PTAC, I was able to hear more like firsthand stories of things I didn't even know was happening, whether that's a class that maybe didn't have a teacher for a certain number of months, whether that's things you're hearing because as you've engaged teachers about their well-being, about their concerns, about their stressors, and their morale. Those are not conversations that often make it up to the council level. And so being able to hear that allowed me to think differently about what my budget priorities were last year. I think after meeting with them, I had like 30 different calls with my colleagues because I knew it would then take a tax increase. I know didn't get everything that folks were advocating for, but to be in partnership with you, to be hearing what you're hearing and to learn from you allowed me to then have a case to advocate for something that was not easy and that a lot of people may not have wanted to do. Because tax increases are not easy and they have implications for everyone in this city. And it's never fun to be on the other side. But I think we're going to have to keep doing that in every budget moving forward. And that's not just with me, but leaning on you to do that with all of my colleagues, with the city manager, with everyone who is involved in those decisions. I think that's a great way that we can start working together right out of the gate. So I guess I will open up for questions, but what I hope to just also leave you with is, I'll make sure you have my cell phone, on my email, whatever you need. If there are questions you have for me, send them. I tell people all the time, I will not be emailing you at 2 a.m. like maybe the previous mayor, because my two little ones won't allow that to happen, but I will respond. I will get back to you. So yeah, thank you all for the time and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mayor to be Gaskins. Does anyone have any questions? No one. I'm in shock. No one's asking a single question.
I was gonna say the
Um,
questions are gonna come when I do the
Dr.
budget
Wait, Dr.
presentation.
K. Wyatt raised-
I have a hand.
Dr. K. Wyatt has a question.
It's not a question. I was like, I don't know what is going on with my keyboard. I'm like sitting over here listening and trying to work on supporting the high school, but I'm like, I have a question. So first of all, Ms. Gaskins, I just want to say thank you for coming tonight. It means a lot. I was listening to your story, and your story kind of reflects our student population, and it's really dear to my heart as a former teacher and principal. So thank you for acknowledging that, because I think when people operate and work from the heart, it really sends the message that we care, right? It's genuine, and having an understanding of what our families are going through. So I just wanted to thank you, because it's not often that people are willing to be, so open and share that story. And I think that will really resonate with a lot of our families, and get a lot of support. And thank you in advance for listening to the community when it came to budget last year, and making schools a priority. And I know I appreciate the collaboration and things that we're going to do moving forward, because cities and schools, we have different stakeholders, but, moving forward, just really grateful that you're willing to have that open conversation with us. So not a question, but just a comment, and just to say thank you for being here. And it's not even my meeting, but thank you. I do appreciate it.
Well, no, I thank you, and I am excited to work with you more closely, and I appreciate your patience, but also your openness with me, as I've already been sending ideas for how
Yeah,
we
it's
can work
okay. I
together.
appreciate.
So-
So I'll just let them know, Ms. Gaskin is already ready to go, and everything she said, she's already started that work. And so we're just grateful as a school board. So thank you.
I see
was-
a hand.
Yeah,
Oh.
I was gonna say, yeah, that was delightful. So thank you both. Miss Julia has a question. Her hand was up.
Thank you. It kind of repeating what Dr. K. Wyatt shared. I just want to thank you for the energy around, especially around city school partnerships. I was really encouraged to hear you speak about that, and to already be sharing the ideas that you have to improve that. I think that's been a real frustration for me personally. I won't speak for PTAC, but for me personally, because we are one city, and these are all of our kids, and they're all of our schools and teachers, and to see some of the discourse that didn't always feel productive, and it didn't always, like watching meetings, didn't always feel productive, and that we were always that there was clearly maybe not effective communication somehow. So I appreciate your efforts on and attention on that. I think um, I'm sure it'll be challenging, but I think it'll go a really long way into also improving community trust, and knowing that everyone is ultimately looking out for the best interests of our kids in schools, even when there are differences in how how they're shared, how they're discussed. I think we look to city council, mayor, school board, as models for, especially for our students, and showing them like effective governance, and how we can disagree and have policy discussions. So I really admire that energy that you're bringing, and want to thank you for that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Julia, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think at the end of the day, these aren't going to be easy conversations. We have different priorities, and we have things that we have to advocate for. And I think you guys have some of the best advocates on your school board who are like, we are here for our kids. We are here for our schools, as you should be. And I think we have to find ways to speak to each other in a way that we can't dismiss that should be a goal for all of us. And so how we talk about these issues, how we disagree, but also how we plan together. If we can't do something in one budget, it doesn't mean that that issue goes away. And it also doesn't mean that kids' needs or their parents' needs or the other things we're balancing don't get more complex or more costly over time. And so I know I won't always have the answers, but I hope that together we can find ways to create I don't know, I recently read this thing that said a brave space where like people feel comfortable sharing their truth and what they need to say, but the space has enough respect and care for each other's comment that like you can say it without feeling like you're going to be attacked, dismissed, or you know, just ignored in it. So that's what we'll be working to be a journey. So I might be coming back here for more energy and support because there's so much love and care on this call. Well, I will, like I said, I will drop my information in the chat, but it's also online. But again, please reach out anytime. I am probably gonna hop off because I did promise my littles I would make it to bedtime, and I hear them going up the stairs. So I will do that. But again, just thank you, and I'm excited for how we will work together.
Thank you. And just before you go, I just wanted to thank you again for meeting with us last year to talk about the budget. We really appreciate it, how open-minded you were and how you listened. And she's already scheduled a meeting with us in January. So we look forward to meeting with you then. And thank you so much for all you plan to do.
Thank you. All right. I hope everyone has a good night.
Totally understand. Yeah, you can go. Okay. Thank you all. We have Jenna Alexander next. So turning it right over to you. We're just going to keep moving because I'm sorry, we're running long today.
I know. I was like, so I'm excited to be here with all of you guys. Thank you so much for having me today. For those of you that I haven't met in the past, I've been involved in PTA for about a decade now. I actually live right over here in Loudoun County, so I'm not too far away from you. And I have 2 high schoolers. And so I just want to start by also just sharing my deep appreciation for all the time and energy that you guys bring to your local schools and the work that you're doing to create those critical bridges between your family and your school community. Katie asked me to talk with you a little bit today about advocacy. And I started to put together a slide presentation, but then I realized that I was kind of making the slide presentation that I intend for everybody to see on January 7th for our General Assembly preview. And I want you to come to that webinar. And also once I get into these topics, I feel like there's, so much that I want to share with you. But I think the most important thing to talk about today is some of the things top mind that are front of mind for me that I've been thinking about, the things that we've seen come out of the governor today in his budget recommendations, and talk a little bit about some of the things that I'm seeing come up in this General Assembly and where I think it's really important for you to bring your voices and your perspective. I know sometimes we're sitting in our PTA space and we just feel a little bit shy, like maybe we're going to offend somebody by talking about these things. And I want to reassure you, in our nonpartisan space, right, there should never be anything partisan about making sure that our kids are taken care of in their school buildings. Parents are always going to have different perspectives that they bring to this. And that is actually the important part of the role that you're in, is to bring those different perspectives. And so I do invite you to come down. I'm going to put a link here in the chat for you to Capitol Day. It's January the 23rd. And to bring these personal stories, like Dr. K. Wyatt was talking a little bit about school construction, and we've been talking about the cell phone policies, right? All of those are your personal perspectives that you should bring down to Richmond and share the importance of why some of those things are important to you. And just to kind of bring this full circle, when we think about the ways that we connect with our communities and talking about the cell phone policy and the executive order behind that, National PTA has put together a robust set of family engagement toolkits that are out there for you to serve in that important role of facilitating some of those parent conversations. And so if you haven't taken a look yet at those resources that are out there, there's resources that are put together, and we can debate the merits of partnering with social media companies, but I think the approach that was taken is we'd rather ensure that our voices are forefront with Instagram, with Discord, with Facebook, that they're hearing directly from those parents, and we're providing feedback to change their platform and make it safer. And so there's a whole robust set of resources out there. We recently had $85,000 come from National PTA to about 54 units across the state, some of which are in Alexandria. And so I appreciate those of you guys that have raised your hands to take on that bigger work, but you don't need the grant funding from National PTA to use those resources. But it's usually a cycle. And I think, Reflections is a good example of that cycle of our work, of how advocacy leads to family engagement, which leads to advocacy, right? Like Reflections and the arts contest that so many of us do seems like something that's super nonpartisan, right? Like we're just out here having a great art contest, and it is, but the advocacy work that started many, many years before that was advocating for arts and education and advocating for funding of the arts, right? So there's that full circle piece of, we started off talking about why this is important for our kids, and then we carry it up and carry it along with the importance of having those family educational pieces and those resources, right? So as we look at what's coming forward in the General Assembly, and thank you for putting the link here in the chat for Capitol Day. It is January the 23rd. And like I said, I'm going to share some stuff here with you. We're going to talk about it on January 7th. We're going to get all down into the weeds in the webinar. I don't expect for you to remember all the details, right? That's my part, is to research all the details and bring them to you. And your part, like your role, is to bring your stories and your personal perspective and why it's important for you. So don't worry about feeling like you need to hang on to all of the numbers. But I do want to touch on a couple of big things that we've been thinking about and talking about for the past couple of months. The accountability system, as Dr. K. Wyatt mentioned, we, in our PTA position on this, we are deeply concerned about the new 4th grade and 8th grade performance assessments that are being added in this year. They are completely not developed. They are untested. Nobody has any idea what's going to be on them. Like, there's no standard of learning that defines what's going to be on that. So we're out here talking about the importance of transparency for parents, but we're talking about testing kids on something that nobody's approved and then judging the success of our schools based on that. So that's our big, starting point. That testing score is going to get blended with chronic absenteeism. So it's not even going to be transparent to our parents. And then we are generally concerned about the trade-off of the growth versus performance, right? This is whether or not your kids are growing or whether or not they just hit the test, and whether or not the shift that we're seeing is going to result in teaching to the test and not helping kids, not recognizing the deep work that's happening, particularly in some of our Title I schools, to continue to lift up the academic success of our kids year over year. We are expecting in the General Assembly that there will be a bill that will delay the implementation of the accountability system. And we have been having conversations with many of our coalition partners about, while we disagree with some aspects of the accountability system, we are also deeply concerned about ensuring that the rights and roles and responsibilities of the Board of Education remain intact, right? Like, we don't want to have the General Assembly undermine the Board of Education, because there will be other years where the Board of Education might have comes forward with something where the General Assembly might not work. And so we're making sure that those roles are still upheld. The governor suggested today $50 million for instructional support and professional development that would go to the schools that are in need of intensive support. And honestly, we know that our schools have been drastically underfunded for years and years, so we're not going to squabble about how we don't like the system. Like, we don't like the system, but we're going to definitely take the funding, right? So there's that two sides piece of it. We're definitely going to support the $50 million. As a whole, I'll say I am frankly really disappointed with the budget announcement this year. I think it has a lot of false promise in it, unfortunately. He's talking about an extra $1 billion worth of K-12 investment, but then when you dig it down into the presentation, it looks like it's largely federal funds and required technical adjustments that are required under the state constitution to transfer down to schools. So it's the regular adjustment that happens every year for salaries and other things like that. It's not brand new needed funding coming in for our public schools. So that part is a little bit disappointing. What is exciting in there is he has included the $290 million for school construction. I add that with the caveat being that we across the Commonwealth need $25 billion worth of investment in school construction. So 290 million is like almost nothing, right? Like, it's important, and we appreciate that forward progress that's been made there. We've done a lot of advocacy over the past 3 or 4 years, honestly, to continue to bring important funding in there and to restructure the way the literacy fund works so that we're getting more money coming in to help our schools. But it's not a substantial investment. Your voices coming down to the General Assembly and sharing those needs on school construction are super important. The big thing that we're going to be talking about, 20 million is like one high school building or one elementary school. It's not even, I think the average cost in some school divisions, I don't know about Alexandria, but some school divisions, right, it can be like 56 million to build a new school. Dr. KY can probably like drop that number right there. But and the other thing that we are planning to talk about this session is what we've been talking about for many years. And I'm sure it's probably super familiar to all of you guys, but we've been talking about the impact of the support cap, right? And the support cap is this arbitrary limit that limits how much money goes into support staff for our schools. It's not based on any data. There's no data that says that it's been successful. In fact, if we were going to use the challenge of whether or not the academic success of our of our schools is where it should be, it kind of fails to meet that mark. And so not only is there no academic or data-based reason for it, but it's been in place since the Great Recession. There's about $200 million worth of investments that's remaining to fully lift the support cap. Back in 2023, it was partially lifted, and they actually shifted the funding, so it looks a little bit more like our regular funding formulas do, where you're funding 24 staff per 1,000 students. So it starts to look a little bit more like something we're familiar to advocate for. But we'd love to see that full 200 million and the support cap get completely removed, because what winds up happening is those are the support staff that we expect our school buildings to have, right? The custodians, the front office staff, the school nutrition staff, right? Like all of these people that are really important, the teachers' aides. And once you don't fund the support staff, you wind up drawing down from the resources that our kids have directly in the classroom. The other big thing that we're going to be talking about, which the governor's not talking about yet, we hope he will be talking about, is our special education kids. One of the recommendations over the past couple of years was from JLARC was to consider a add-on formula, right? So you get an amount of basic aid that comes from the state to each of your students. And then there's an add-on piece that traditionally we talk a lot about it with our at-risk kids, like our low-income families, right? It's called the at-risk add-on. It's a special amount of money that goes towards schools and based on the number of low-income families that they have in their building. It costs a lot more to educate a student that's in special education, but there is no add-on that acknowledges the 185,000 kids across the Commonwealth, which is basically about 12 to 15% of our entire student population across the Commonwealth of special education kids. And so what we'll be asking for this session is an add-on of 6%. This is $52 million to support additional funding for our special education kids. And I want to completely contrast this for you with the recommendation that came out from the governor today of he's asking for $50 million in vouchers that would be payable at $5,000 grants to about 10,000 families that are low income to go to private schools. If you do a Google, it'll tell you that to go to a private school in the state of Virginia costs you around $10,000 to $15,000 per year. And it's set up so that it's, I think you have to be 2 times the poverty rate. So you could be a family that's making like $84,000 and still qualify for these $5,000 private school grants. And so rather than supporting $50 million for 10,000 families, withdrawing money from a public school system, going into private schools, we will be talking about, and I hope you'll be coming down to the support, a $50 million investment in our special education kids. So that's where we would like to see the funding and focus be this session. We're also going to be talking about farm to school. There's $3 million, so it's not a really big ask, of funding that was received as part of the American Rescue Plan that was helping to procure local foods from our farmers across the Commonwealth and distribute them into our schools. So there's about 60 school divisions that were using this special grant program to bring from about 80 farmers across the Commonwealth, bring locally grown foods into the school cafeteria. So we'll have a special budget amendment that we're asking to somebody to carry for us. This is especially like a PTA ask. We want to see those local foods continue. And so we'll have a budget amendment that we'll be talking about to continue our farm to school support. So those are the couple of big things that I just wanted to highlight for you that we're talking about, over the past, 3-4 hours since the announcement came out. The other big thing he has out there is $66 million to reform the SOL assessments. We're a little unclear on what that is. Again, right, we don't really support the 4th and 8th grade performance task on unknown, information. So we're not sure like if that 66 million is about that, or if it's about something else, if it's about, there's probably some changes that could be made to the SOL system that are positive. But again, we would rather see the money go towards our special education kids. So those are the big things we're talking about. I want to encourage you to come down on January the 23rd. If you don't come down on January 23rd, I know I'm like super overtime here, but I want to also encourage you guys to come down on May the 17th and May the 16th. So I'm skipping way ahead to the end of the school year. We will be celebrating all of your good work as we do every year with our annual meeting. Every single PTA across the Commonwealth are invited to attend. And we're going to do something a little bit different this year than we've done in the past. On May the 16th, we've rented the Women's Club in Richmond. It's a beautiful, like you can Google it. It's called the Haxel Bowling House. And it's got like beautiful parlors and, you know, nice like Art Deco interior ballroom. And we're going to have a 1920s themed awards reception. And so you can go out, buy your 1920s dress that you've been hoping to buy on Amazon, or pull it out of the back of the closet because we're going to give you a chance to wear it. We're going to celebrate 120 years of impactful advocacy and parent engagement in Virginia. And then after that on Saturday, we're going to get into the business of PTA. We're going to do our breakout roundtables like we usually do on some focused topics, and we'll have our full annual meeting with an opportunity. I hope you come to vote on our state officers. The new term will be the 2025 to 2027 term. So those will be all of our new officers. And then we usually have some resolutions to discuss, budget amendments, but the important opportunity there is to be able to hear what other people are doing across the Commonwealth and to share those ideas. So we usually do 20 different breakout tables, gives you a chance to talk about, you know, what are you doing for membership? What are you doing for, you know, student engagement? What are you doing for English language learners? How are you connecting with them? So we'll take a lot of those different topics and give you a chance to collaborate and share on there. So I know that was a lot. I'm sorry I went super over time, but I wanted to make sure I gave you guys a little bit of an update. I apologize I didn't make slides, but I will send a newsletter like probably tomorrow, and it'll repeat all these same things that I just shared with you. And then, you know, I'll send probably the exact same newsletter. Please come on January the 7th. That is our General Assembly preview date. And we also have a special webinar set up on January the 14th. I was wanting to call it the economics of school nutrition, but other people told me that that wasn't very exciting and nobody would come. But we have Dr. Sandy Kerwood, who is the director of the Virginia Department of School Nutrition. And she's been doing some really innovative stuff around farm to school, which is why we're asking for this $3 million to support and expand farm to school. So she's going to talk about school meals and how the funding works. And farm to school, we've actually, I didn't mention it, but we've got a bill that we're going to support this session as well that would make universal free breakfast. So we tried for universal free meals across the board last year, didn't make it very far. And in state advocacy, we make, you know, small inch by inch by inch by inch. We're going to finally get there. So we're going to go after breakfast this session, hopefully get free breakfast across the Commonwealth. And so with that, I'm sorry that I'm super over time, but I'm happy to take any questions.
I don't see any questions, but I would like to say thank you so much for the cliff notes of the budget already, since it came out today. That was delightful. I will share out your notes when you send them to in the newsletter to all of you, so you'll all get them. And I want to give another plug for Capital Day, because Jenna will laugh again because she laughed at me last year, but you can do it in a day. You can leave really early in the morning and you can be back by elementary school pickup. We did it, Julia and I, last year, and it was great. And it's a great chance to try and make an impact and make some movement with the state. So thank you so much. Does anyone have, and Meta is already definitely signed up for Capital Day and she's super fun. And if you do sign up, let me know, because I'm making snack bags. Because it's a long car ride. So I believe in snacks. So if you do sign up, please email me and let me know, because we have to schedule your meetings. Does anyone have any questions? No, I can't. It's because you can. Oh, Julia has a question. Julia has a hand up.
Sorry, I'm just full of questions today. Jenna, I was curious also around the accountability system and transparency um, around the MOUs that school districts might be asked to sign if they have a certain number of underperforming schools. Has there been any additional information on what that might look like? Or I just don't know how transparent this has all been.
I mean, we've received some nebulous assertions that it was going to be the same as it always is. But what is concerning to us is that it's already in the ESSA plan that was sent to the Federal Department of Education. And so at some level, it's kind of baked in there. Like these MOUs are very specifically stated in what was sent into the ESSA plan. So we're waiting to see how that goes. And, I didn't talk about the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education, but I do want to reassure you, we have had a statewide, state board of directors a vote. And should something happen, we're still waiting a little bit to see how National PTA is going to position it. But just as we always have for 120 years, we will support the coordinated work that happens from the Department of Education, just like we were here at the inception of the Virginia Board of Education and see value and importance in the oversight for dispersion of federal funds and policy and ensuring that our schools are operating in a high quality, high academic success manner. And so, we are very cognizant of what is happening, particularly in Northern Virginia, and the concerns that our families have around some of the proposals to dismantle the Department of Education. And so I do just want to separately reassure you, we're also watching that. And while National PTA might be not as ready to be as loud, Virginia PTA is ready to be loud because we know that this is in our backyard and it directly impacts so many of our families, not just from an oversight of education standpoint, but also from an employment standpoint. So I didn't mention that, but I'll just share that kind of insight there.
Thank you. Dr. K. Wyatt has a question. Hi, Dr. K.
I'm just really grateful for Ms. Alexander taking that stance for us. I don't know if everyone on this call knows, our board chairs from the area put out a statement, I don't recall, a few weeks ago. I'm going to say pushing back against VDOE and taking a stance that, we need to roll this out in a delayed manner. Prior to that, a few months ago, I also went down as part of the Hunt Institute and spoke with delegates and senators to say, you all need to have more transparency. We need the research behind the data, all of the things that Ms. Alexander said. So I just want you to know the superintendents and your school board are pushing back on at least the delayed implementation, and we're not hearing that that's going to happen. I also raised questions about the MOU when I was there in Richmond, as well as superintendents from Region 4. Even today, we met early this morning with some additional questions. And so, looking for that vowels 4 and 8, the research, we need some validity on it. Is that a test that is going to move the needle for our students? So there's still a lot of unknowns. I just want you to know that. But as school leaders, school board, superintendents, we are continuing. And I'm so glad to hear that Virginia PTA is joining us in that fight. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. K. Wyatt. And we appreciate you. If you haven't had a chance to watch her, you can find her speech at the Hunt Institute. It was no, she doesn't want me to share that, but it was very powerful. And so we appreciated it. And I plugged, if anyone is interested, I plugged the letter for the school board that's sent in the chat. You can find it in the middle of the page. Thank you so much, Jenna. We really appreciate all that you're doing and all that you share with us. If no one has any more questions, I'm going to let for Mr. Tim Beatty, who's been waiting for quite a while to have his turn. Thank you all for hanging in with this very exciting but long night.
Not waiting. I've been participating. Yeah, I'll be brief. Dr. K. Wyatt covered most of what I'm going to cover. We've got 4 new school board members joining us next month. Abdullahi Abdallah, Donna Kenley, Ryan Reyna, and Alex Sosha. They're way in the late stages of the process of onboarding. I spent a good part of the day with them yesterday and the night before. And there'll be a reassignment of our liaisonships with the different schools and committees, and we'll share those assignments with PTAC. Second, there'll be an induction ceremony for the school board on Monday, January 6th at the high school auditorium. you all are invited, and we'll share a link on that as well. The final school board meeting of this calendar year is tomorrow night. As you've heard, we'll be talking about the K-8 analysis. We'll be talking about the proposed 10-year CIP. We'll be talking about renaming the field at Minnie Howard. And we'll be talking about our cell phone policy. And the link for that meeting, I think we've already shared with Katie. And I wish everybody a great winter break. Obviously, I'm substituting for Michelle tonight. She's at a concert with her daughter. I've been on the school board about a year. A year ago at this time, I was knocking at doors, campaigning for election, and I've been reelected now this past November, and very happy to continue to serve you all and our students, and enjoy working with our staff and my colleagues on the school board.
Tim,
Thank you so much.
is it okay, Katie, a brief question?
Oh,
Tim,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
I wondered how collective bargaining will be playing a role in the upcoming budget discussions this year. Since I know you're the collective bargaining expert, that you could shed some light on that. I'm kind of curious. This is going to be a new process for all of us.
So, as you know, we passed a resolution and a policy that allowed our staff to organize if they wanted to. Both the teachers and licensed staff on the one hand, and the support staff on the other hand, had elections and chose to be represented. They both formed unions, and we have recognized their unions. They're both part of the existing EAA. They're both represented by the Alexandria Education Association. Bargaining did not start in time for it to impact directly on the budget that Dr. K. Wyatt mentioned that she's working on. There is consultations going on, but there won't be a formal collective bargaining agreement finished in time for this round of the budget. That doesn't mean the unions won't be present at our meetings and, lobbying us and lobbying you about what they'd like to see in the budget once Dr. K. Wyatt reveals it. We've got challenges this year in that the city has limited to 2% our increase over last year on the allotment we get from the city, which is about 80% of our budget. I think things are moving in the right direction. For me, they're just me personally, not anybody else. For me personally, they're a little bit slower moving than I would like to see them move, but that's not because people have a lack of will or aren't trying. And I think we'll get there, but I don't think we will not finish collective bargaining before this round of the budget. And we will work on getting that done, both sides, in good order over the next months. Dr. K. Wyatt, I see you angling towards the screen. Did you want to add something there?
No,
Did I mess it
my
up?
old,
Did I-
no, you did fabulous. It's just my old age and leaning in. Because I was gonna say, you got great job, Mr. Beatty. That's exactly what I was gonna say. So no, just
Oh, okay.
yeah, nope, you got it
Okay.
perfectly. You don't need me. You're good.
Missy has.
I feel good about the direction. My own vision is that I think it is the natural way of things that groups like teachers and support staff should be represented and have an organized voice through a union. I think it's the natural way, and I think it's the best way in the long term for our school system. We will have our bumps in the road as we start this process. There's a process of internally for the teachers and for the support staff to build their union, to get to understand how to work with each other, to be able to exercise their new power that they've obtained. So it's not going to be, I think, smooth, But I think in short term, we can create a situation where there's a mature labor relationship where our staff feel more confident that they're being listened to through the voice that they themselves are creating.
Thank you. I think Missy has a question.
Hey, Tim. I'm Missy Estabrook. I'm the president of the high school PTSA. How are you?
Good.
With reference to the chart about which school board members are representing each school, I noticed that Chris Harris, who's wonderful, would be ours again. And I really would love to just recommend, though, that every school board member take a turn at the high school. I was really hoping, nothing personal against Chris, but I was hoping we would have another member, because in meeting with school board members one-on-one, and through no fault of their own, the ones with younger children, no high school kids, really don't have a grasp on what's going on there. And I just think it would be beneficial if everyone had a chance to, lucky you, be our representative. The high school parents have tough questions and they want detailed answers, and it's a tough gig. But I really think it would benefit everyone. So I invite you to join us at some point, and I would love, if you're talking to Michelle, I spoke with her about it today, just that it might help if we got someone else, and then again someone else, so that you all roll through the one high school that we have in the division. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think that's a welcome suggestion. We all, I've got 5 different committee assignments, and plus I am liaison at Cora Kelly and at GW. But absolutely, the high school is not an area I'm as familiar with. I would sub at the elementary schools and a little bit at the middle schools, and less at the high school. I was a chaperone at the homecoming dance. That was quite an experience for me. Brought back old memories of many years ago for me. But yeah, sporting events and different things. I'm at the high school a lot, party events and stuff. But yeah, that's in what you're talking about mostly here is us attending PTA meetings. Is that right?
Yes, because we
Yeah.
just, and I just can't answer everything, and nor can Mr. Duncan. We really need a school board member who's engaged, and Chris is, but I think that you all bring unique and different perspectives. And I think if you want to understand the big picture of ACPS, you really need to, dive in. Not that you aren't behind the scenes, but just really talk to our parents one-on-one. And I think they would really appreciate getting some FaceTime with multiple members. So I don't know how the terms run, but I know Chris was our rep last year. And then of course, the half of this year, maybe it's for all 3 years of your term. I don't know how it works. It used to be, though, that every year they rotated. So it's just a suggestion.
Yeah,
Going
and at
forward.
least maybe we can have our board secretary put when those meetings are taking place and the link to get onto the list that we get for our calendars. So yeah, okay,
Right. That would
I
be great.
take that on board, Missy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, and just to add, school board members are welcome to go to any PTA meeting they would like. You are all welcome to invite not more than 2 of them at once, though, please. That causes other
Right.
issues.
Right.
But
If
just
it's-
FYI, you're
I'm going to jump in. If it's a publicly advertised meeting, it's one thing, like a major event, but your PTAs, depending on how you advertise them, may not be perceived legally as a public event. So I want to caution an open invitation, but Ms. Brownback, I can circle back to you and Ms. Easterbrook about how we can, support having different members maybe come at different times. So.
Thank you both for considering. And of course, we have the unique situation of Dr. Reef having a student at ACHS. So when she shows up, we try to pretend, she's just a parent. She's not here as a school board member. So we can get 3 in the door. So anyway, everyone is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say, Liz, I got your note today, and I heard your question to Dr. K. Wyatt. I can assure you that this issue has been on the agenda for just about every meeting I've been at in the year that I've been on the school board, and I know for sure it's been on for at least 6 months before that. I have raised it when I've done my presentations to the GW PTA when I've attended, not as often as I should, but when I attend, and while I've made it clear that these two issues impact on each other, one was not dependent on the other or waiting on the other. I never understood that. I never communicated that to the folks that I talked to about that. So I think there's some misunderstandings here. And I get that, we wound up with 10 different options in the results of the study. And, how many people actually read that study, and then all 10 and the impacts of different ones. But as we narrowed down then, and it became clearer that there's just really a couple of viable options, I can see where this is creating more angst among folks. But I assure you, it's not because there was a lack of consultation at the two K-8s and the middle schools. There was a lot of it over the last 2 years. And where we're heading tomorrow night is a decision that sets money aside 6 years from now for conversion on the CIP, not next month, not next year. It's a ways off on the one hand. And we are going to also vote on a resolution that sets a direction. The reason in the CIP, our colleagues on the city council demand of us that we plan 10 years out. They don't want to hear about big changes in our capital strategies just a year away or something like that. They demand of us that we and again, this is all money coming from the city, that they give us very, very early warning on what they want. They are very tight on their capital budget availability because they're about to invest a big chunk of money in redoing City Hall, and they don't want to go above their borrowing limits at all. And the end of this 2-year result is also some clarity, I think, in my mind. We'll see how everybody votes tomorrow, but in my mind about what the analysis means as far as what we're doing on K-8s. And so it's I can imagine folks don't have time to pay attention to everything. I certainly can imagine that, but that we have not been consulting, or that it has not been both at school board meetings or in consultation with the middle schools and the K-8s. There's been a lot of meetings, and we're going to put out tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be the school board or before or after, but we'll put out a full list of all the different layers of consultation we did going into the decisions before the decision that we're going to take tomorrow. But the decision tomorrow is a decision to move in a direction, and it's a long way out before the actual changes take place. And in the meantime, we will do all the steps of planning in the process of actually implementing, moving in that direction, should we decide to go that way. So just wanted to add some context there from my perspective.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for reading the email. Thank you for such a long answer. I mean, the disconnect is coming in between, I got a lot of text messages to fill out the survey. Dr. Finney came to our school and told us that there were 8 options on the table. The disconnect is that I feel like the proactive outreach to the community feels like it has stopped. And I respect and I understand what you're saying. But I will tell you that I am spending a lot of my time trying to inform them and being fair to all the sides. But I promise you that the community is worried and distressed and does need to hear more. And so I would invite, and a lot of them will be at the school board meeting tomorrow. And I hope that you will say what you have said here tonight to them. And I would say, and I think the crux of it is right. They do, the big argument here is like, we want to understand what taking this large Black serving, low income serving, walkable school, elementary school. The concerns are really with the elimination of the elementary program, right? There's a middle school right there. We understand that the middle school needs capacity right now, but the large concerns lie with how are we going to replace that resource in this community that depends on it, very ARHA serving. And I understand that all of that can be worked out. But the community does need to hear something.
Got it.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, if no one else has any questions, I was just going to say thank you, Mr. Beatty, and thank you for being willing to serve again after your, short term to sign on for a full 3 years. It's a lot, and so we appreciate your willingness. And we look forward to seeing you at some PTA events and meetings and things this spring and this winter.
I look forward to it
Thank you.
too.
Thank you. So thank you to all of our guest speakers. We are going to move into a very quick, like the business part of PTAC. You do not have to stick around. It has been a very long night. You can, if you're welcome to. You are welcome to stick around, but you do not have to. And I understand, Dr. K. Wyatt, you do have to go. Thank you so much. And so moving into our like PTAC business really quick, just a reminder, you need to pay dues every month. I've been emailing you if you do not. Yeah, I see you cheering, Jenna. It's all for you. And so if you are having trouble paying your dues, please reach out and we will figure out how to get you properly set up on givebacks. And then please email me. I was serious or message me in the chat. Send me a pigeon. Let me know if you're going to go to Capitol Day. Just because we will start scheduling your meetings and I just want to make sure everybody has all the information that they need. And you should of course also go to the January 6th, 7th, 6th webinar that I will send out. 7th. Thank you, Terry. I saw your fingers. That was awesome. The meeting that I will send that out to all of you as well. So next slide, I believe we have Cynthia on board for a quick treasurer's report. Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Yes, we can go to the next slide. I know we'll be speaking about this in a couple of slides ahead here, but we have received some summer camp registration fees have come through. So we received 13 so far. We get them batched on a weekly basis. So I already see we have 2 more coming through. It seems like they are deposited on Friday. So hopefully we'll get some more. And our next monthly cycle, we'll see that number even jump even more as well. And then just a little small shop to give donation, adding on to the total there. Then the next slide with the expenses, we're still kind of quiet on that end, but we should be seeing this month some expenses come through. We do have our PO box operating expense to be paid. And hopefully Evan will be submitting his hybrid kit reimbursement. So we have budgeted for that in operating expenses. So we should be getting that reimbursed. And hopefully you'll see that through on the next cycle as well. And that's all I have. Unless any questions.
I was going to say, any questions for Cynthia? Thank you so much. She makes it so clear. We don't even have to have questions. It's wonderful. Thank you. Next, I have Maureen for advocacy.
Hi. Well, we've kind of reviewed a lot of advocacy tonight. Dr. K. Wyatt already mentioned the 23rd date is when the combined funds budget will be presented to the school board. I just wanted to flag January 30th as the public hearing date for this budget. So if units have concerns about staffing, or they want to advocate for more staffing, this would be the time to do it. And we'll be talking more about this, but we'll have a week to kind of look at the numbers and give our suggestions to the units. That was my dog. So thanks.
Hi, dog. Thanks, Maureen. Any questions for Maureen? No. Okay. So real quick, Pallavi and Krista could not be here, but they gave a little synopsis of the entries that will be moving forward, and they have the entries already done, the winners that will be moving forward to the to Virginia PTA. But I think we will wait until next month when we have like the slideshow to like show you what it was to share that. So we're just gonna skip ahead. Meta. Yeah, we're gonna skip that because we're gonna wait. If you saw your kid's name, congrats. Real quick, DEI committee is Sue here. So do you have any updates for us or Keisha?
I'm Sue's here. We had a meeting just recently and we reviewed some of the work being done at this state and the Virginia and the national PTA, which was really good. I'm a little distracted right now because I'm just getting messages that they canceled school for the high school tomorrow and the next day. So I apologize. The Our next meeting is January 16th. I'm also supposed to meet with Brielle Welsh, who is our equity director at the central office. So we're supposed to be meeting this week. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get together, but we're talking about how she can best serve our committee and maybe come in and do some training for us and or at the high school level. So that's it for right now.
Thank you, Sue. That sounds great. Be curious to see what Brielle has for us. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Um,
And I was very happy to meet with our own Emily and Keisha and Meta actually. Is Meta still here? To help with our last meeting. It really came together well, and we had a lot of feedback from the folks about all the information that was shared. So that was very helpful and supportive as well. And we're seeing some new faces, so some new schools coming and joining us. So that's really good as well.
Great. And if your unit doesn't have a DEI rep and you want one to join the DEI committee now, that's great. Mid-year is fine. Just like send them on our way.
Right. And it's really just a discussion and to share ideas. We get most of our meetings are the best part of them is just sharing ideas. And if people have things that went well, things that aren't going well, they just ask for feedback. So it is a really great opportunity to just kind of chat about events.
Great. Thank you. Next, we have special ed, and Jen was unable to sign in, but I will update you all that we had another meeting this morning, and we are partnering up a little bit with Janet Eisenstadt, who is the new chair of SEAC, which is the school board special ed committee, and kind of working together to see how we can work together and create some synergy and help bring some positive advocacy to our special ed families. And so that is something that is coming about and we are working on. And we should be meeting with Amy Creed, who is the director of special ed instruction, again in January. And next we have Sharon Pearson, who is our camp directory extraordinaire, with a short update. I think she's still
Hi.
here.
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry that I'm off camera. I am running kids home from activities, but I do just have a really quick update that we have sent the intro email to all of our prospective camp directory participants. So if you are longtime members of summer camp and you want to make sure that they're in the PTAC directory, we have that all set up and ready to go. We have an early bird fee of $95 before if they're registered before February 1st, and it will be $125 immediately following. And we'll publish the directory in February to help everyone make their summer plans.
Thank you, Sharon. And just a reminder that we use the money that we get from the camp directory to help fund our scholarship fund of Alexandria scholarship. And so it's a really great cause. And if you do have an off the beaten path camp that you think is really great and you think would sync with Alexandria families, please send it our way and we will contact them and see if they want to join. That is all for tonight. Thank you all so much. This has turned into a it was exciting to me. If you really like data and numbers and advocacy meeting. I really appreciate you all hanging in, and especially at this time of year where everything is just so busy. We're really grateful for your joining us, all of you, and partnering with us and running your PTA units. And so our next meeting will be January 22nd, but you will be hearing lots from me prior to that about Advocacy Day. And that is all. So reach out if you have any questions. Have a wonderful winter break. Good luck home with your children, especially if they are small like mine. And thank you all.
Thank you, Katie.